Pie in the Sky Media. This series contains adult language and descriptions of graphic violence throughout. Listener discretion is advised.
No, please continue.
Thank you for that serving.
Continue, really. With exactly what you were doing.
Oh, you're trying to get back at me so I can
Who, me?
hear how
I'm not
bad I
getting back at
sound?
anything. All right, are we done with the shenanigans? Can we work? All right,
I don't know. I don't know.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back, Criminal Mischief Nation, to another episode of Criminal Mischief with Carolyn and Brandon. Not Carolyn auditions for Star Search. This is actually...
Oh my gosh, wait a second, you Gen Xer, Star Search?
Oh, excuse me, X Factor. Oh, okay.
Yeah, if I'm going to go on a TV show, I think it needs to be one where it's still around.
I'm so fucking old. I just actually said Star Search, and I just got it from memory without even thinking about it. That's awful.
Okay,
oh my God.
I understand. I was with you on the journey.
Oh
my gosh, you're gonna make me crack up.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
So, really, condolences to the Pacific Northwest for these terrible fires. You know what happened in LA, obviously, in in 2025, and it was awful and destructive, and thousands of structures and homes, and and it affected us directly because Palisades High School burned up, and where my daughter goes to school, it's a Catholic school, and so they're like, we'll take any student, whatever, we'll add trailers as classrooms, and so we got a bunch of Palisades High School kids for the 2025 school year because of it. So it was like I got to meet a lot of those kids and their families and stuff, and so it was really, really brutal. Really brutal.
And you know what's crazy?
Yeah.
So I was listening to or watching a headline or reading a news report where it's suspected arson in one of the fires.
Yeah, they got the guy. Yeah, so was ours. I know. So was the Palisades fire. It was suspected arson.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they got the guy. It was interesting because he was reported lighting, something up there in the hills above the Pacific Palisades like 2 or 3 days before the winds picked up. At first it was like you didn't even notice it. It wasn't like it happened that day, but he lit this fire, and I guess it just didn't go all the way out. It was still smoldering, and then we got that like once in 25-year Santa Ana condition. We were getting 100-mile-an-hour dry gusts that just bad luck, whipped it up. And yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. He has this suspect that they've arrested.
Yeah.
He has a history of, 12 years ago murdering his father. And so, like the history of arson with, suspected, I'm not saying he's a serial killer. I'm just saying, the work that we do, obviously, fire starting is part of that.
Did he go to jail for the murder of his dad?
Yeah.
It was only 12 years ago, and he's out. And
apparently, this happened in Arizona, so I don't know the whole. Like again, I don't. And he's a sus. I don't know if he's been charged or we know he's been arrested, but like that doesn't mean that he's guilty of this. So, but it's just a really messed up backstory so far.
Is your air quality? Oh,
yeah.
He's what? He was 16 when he killed his dad? Is that what you're about to say?
Well, no, 60,000 people in Spokane are out of, their homes have been torched. And, it's just like to hear, it's one thing to hear like, okay, because I didn't know that it was arson suspected in your guys' fire, but a family who loses everything they have, and to know, then to hear, oh, there was a guy who was acting really weird at the, at the trailhead and they, it's like to intentionally do this.
Yeah, I know. It's awful.
So anyway.
Wow. Well, yeah. So your air quality's fucked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shit. So I did a thing on it on my other show, just, if you feel like, like it just seems like everything's on fire. France and Spain, Greece, like there's just fires everywhere. The worst ever, 100-year fire, and not I don't want to be political, but I'm just saying that, there are elections coming up. And I'm not saying anybody should be a single issue voter, but
Hmm.
we should also grill every candidate possible on their thoughts on environmental protection and climate change and all of that because, you know, I think it's honest. I'm not so much of a doomsayer, but looking beyond 2 or 3 generations after us, we're probably fucked as a species, but for now, my kids, grandkids, whatever, it's that adage, like, are you willing to plant trees under whose shade you'll never sit? And that's the attitude that I think we need to have because
I mean, I think it needs to be apolitical. It needs to be a
it
human
should be. It
thing. It
should fall
should
under the
be.
no shit umbrella. Like
I
the
know.
one thing we all have in common is that we have one place to live, one
And
planet to
here's the
live on.
thing about what this is a place that I always try to go to in the spirit of not being political, but
Yeah,
like, the ingenuity that people have, the smarts, the creatives, like
yeah.
all those things. Like one of the things that I loved about getting up super early in the morning when I was hosting the 5 a.m. for Seattle's Morning News is it sucked getting up. I'd have to get up at 2:45 a.m. and I'd have to be there, but in my seat at like 5 a.m. But like in between, if I'd get there earlier, a little bit, after I did the reporting and stuff, I had time to put myself on the, because everybody else was sleeping, right? And so I was able to do really great environmental stories because like what people are doing in Europe because they were up and at 'em at that time. So I was able to
Yeah.
do like a story on these people and now it's not anything new, but back then it was like, composting the body, like how they would have these eggs
Yeah.
and you put so stuff that was really interesting to me. And then like in Rotterdam they were doing this thing where they would collect garbage from the ocean and then plogging, which was like a really of interest to me, which is people in Denmark or Sweden, one of those countries where they jog and then they pick up garbage at the same time, and it became this kind of like
Cool.
phenomenon
Yeah.
of doing it. So I think that like if we can just get to the point where it's not where we focus on ingenuity and things problem solving and like how to come up use technology for there is a solution.
I think there is too. I think there's always been a solution. I just think we're up against a lot of money and a lot of
I know a
government
lot of old school.
lobbying and yeah, a
Yes.
lot of a lot of these legacy energy companies that are just
Mhm.
hanging on. They're
Like
just hanging.
people in Connecticut who figured out we can use mushrooms for packaging. We
Hmm.
can use and instead of using all this styrofoam and plastic. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it just makes sense. Let's figure this out. But there has to be the will.
Yep.
It's not a foregone conclusion that it's too late. I just hope not. And to your point about 7 generations,
Yeah.
like planting trees that
Yeah.
that's the thing about when I took my trip to the Redwood Forest that was so cool is that Lady Bird Johnson,
Yeah.
she protected
Yeah.
these groves. And then, TR,
Sure.
he
Look at
basically
yeah, conservation. Look at Frederick Olmsted. You know Frederick Olmsted? He
mm,
was the landscape architect behind Central Park and Boston Commons and these
mm,
massive, massive, beautiful green spaces,
mm,
and so he pitched New York back in the early 1800s, like here's this is where the place is going to be, and it's going to cost this much, and they're like, holy shit, that's a lot. He goes, it's going to be worth it. And so like 3 years later,
ooh.
it'll be worth it. 3 years later, he goes, yo, I'm done. Come check it out. And they look at it, and they're like, what the fuck is this? It's like a barren wasteland. There's patches of dirt and little tiny trees. He goes, no, no, in 40 years, it's
Mm,
going to be the most beautiful thing ever. We're never going to enjoy it,
mhm.
but future generations are going to fucking love it.
No, but what we can, like, one of my favorite things to do in my own yard is like, and I'm fortunate to have a big yard. I get that, and I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for it. But like, I started planting trees, when we
Hmm.
first moved in, and then like every year, um, I've been able to plant trees, and they're sure.
Keep going.
Okay. Anyway, it's like there's one of these trees that I planted, and my mom has a huge green thumb, which I love. She was the
Yeah.
master gardener back in the day, and just was one of the first people to get that certification to be a master gardener, which I just thought is super, super
Yeah.
cool. And I love that about her. But anyway, I planted these two trees right beside each other. One was a Japanese maple, and the other one was this other one. And she was like, "You can't put them that close because they're gonna mess each
Compete.
other up." And I'm like, "No, because the Japanese maple's gonna go this way, and then the other one's gonna go really tall." And
Were you
like
right?
I was.
Oh, great.
And the one that grew really tall, I mean, it is like so tall. It looks like it's been there for like 50 or 100 years. That's how tall it is.
And how long ago did you plant it?
Probably like 10 years ago.
Wow, that's great.
It's
Great.
and I have that and I have those stories. Like those are the kinds of things that I love. I love about life, about
Yeah.
like planting seeds, literal, and
Yeah.
trees, and just seeing it grow. So anyway, way off topic, but I'm with you 150%.
Great. All right. Well, look, let's get into this because I knew nothing about this story and I found it super disturbing, really, really disturbing.
Yeah.
And the biggest question that I had was this guy who started as a bodyguard and became the head of security for eBay. Um, like who hurt that guy? Like that's what I want to know,
Mm.
right? Like who fucked him up? Like who betrayed him or who, you know, because for him to come up with stuff like this, is it's that whole self-help phrase, hurt people, right? Like that's what I feel like. Like it was revenge against to right some wrong that had happened to him like years ago that he was taking out on these other people because his corporate overlords were giving him an assignment because there was some creative like awful shit, you know.
It's interesting that you say that because your insights come from the same place as mine, but a little bit different because I think it comes down to people who do this kind of stuff. Obviously, something has happened to them.
Yeah.
Maybe not
Yeah.
all people because we know that, like with psychopaths, whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
But like, I hadn't heard anything about this, so I ended up
Right.
watching the documentary, which I feel like got buried.
Well, let me ask you a question before you start. What fueled your fangirl like fantasy fiction kind of opening? Where you like inserted
Because I
yourself.
started thinking about, I was having so much fun. First of all,
Oh yeah, that fan fiction intro was great.
whenever nobody dies, I feel like I
Yeah.
can spread my wings a little bit. You know what I
Yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And what
Yeah.
I loved as I was like, there's a couple of things. And I know these people were tormented, so I'm not, it's with the greatest
Oh yeah.
respect that I'm
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I'm
yeah, of
saying
course.
that, like, as I was really analyzing the story, I kept laughing because it was like when I was listening to the press release, they kept referring to these people as this middle-aged couple, like almost to the point where it's like, dude, can you take some
We
sauce
get
off of
it.
that? Okay.
Yeah, right.
Can
We
you
get
not
it.
act like they're the lamest people in the entire
Right.
world?
Middle-aged, boring couple. Yeah.
Right. And it's like truly like when I heard about what she did, I was like, wow. I was thinking in my mind, that would be really boring to write for that beat. Like that would be
Yeah.
but then I started thinking, this is so not sexy, as I said so many times. Like,
Yeah.
but it's so important. It's so important. And part of the reason maybe we haven't heard about it is that, and this is totally me, maybe everybody's heard about it and it's just you and me and whatever,
Yeah.
but like I was thinking it's because they're not Kardashian-esque, because they're, you know and so that made me
Well,
sad.
no, I think it's because they're not covering politics. They're not covering like Trump. They're not covering like scandal. They're not covering wars or, the Middle East or, anything, any type of political scandal or collapse or murders or sex scandals. They're writing about people who sell shit on eBay,
I
right?
know.
So that in itself seems very like pedestrian, but if you get into it, I mean, it's a multi-billion dollar like business. I mean, it's really, really obviously big business. Um, so they're smarter than us, right? Because
I
to
know, and
corner that market, yeah.
that's why I had that intro, because I was like thinking, if we thought that she was this person, I mean, this would have been like front page, this would have been covered like crazy. But I think, I mean,
Yeah.
that's just what I think. But
Right. Well, you know what? I get it. You would want it to be more like all the president's men kind of political intrigue and like, oh, we got to get the sources and who's going to talk or whatever. And where this story is far and away the most scandalous thing that ever happened in that world, right?
I
Of
know.
eBay sellers, right? But like the reporters became the story, which is kind of the last thing that a reporter wants.
Right. And
Right.
and the fact that the C-suite co-signed this.
Yeah, they were the bad guys. They were total corporate, fuckery was going on here. They knew it was, yeah, I mean, it was when you think about it, it's the dumbest shit.
It is the absolute. And so that's where like my feeling where you're like the hurt, what was that? What was
Hurt
that
pe
quote?
hurt people hurt people.
I was like, this guy is living his fantasy. He was in the CIA and
Oh, he's like, now he gets
he's
to do it for a paycheck. Where he's like, okay,
and
come
not
on.
well, not only that, but like he was like the bodyguard for like Bill Gates, and he was
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
body and like he fired all the competent people according to this documentary that I watched. He fired all the competent people in the office and like completely hired these young women, and like he had a
Right.
type, and it was that
Who
whole
were
thing.
looking, yeah, who were totally down. They were there for all of it. Like, fuck yeah.
But
Send them spiders. Great. Great. Let's keep workshopping this, people. Live cockroaches. Yes.
I mean,
Okay. A funeral wreath. Yeah. Oh, amazing. Do it
But I mean,
all.
imagine they flew first class to
Yeah.
Boston. They stayed at the Ritz-Carlton. Like this guy wanted to be a big shot. He
They
wanted to
totally,
have
because the bosses
this.
let them off the leash. They're like, do whatever it takes. Do whatever it takes. Silence them. You know what I would do? I would call them up and say, let me take you to lunch. What's your beef with us? Let's see if we can fucking work it out.
Or even,
Right?
you know what? I was
Yeah.
thinking about that too on my on. I was,
Right.
you know what I was thinking? I was like, why didn't they just offer to buy the company?
But do
Give
that. Great.
give like $5 million and just be
Absolutely. Buy
like,
the
but you know what?
company and
Here's the thing about people like that. They don't want to pay regular people.
no, they want
They
to
don't
crush them.
want them to be
Right.
successful. They want to, as he said, burn her down, because they could have bought, that would have been the best thing. They could have bought the business. They could have wooed them, like you said, let me take you to
Yeah.
coffee. And hey, we want to make sure that we're reporting. We want to work together. Like
Right.
you can have a role in that. I mean, but they
Or
didn't want that.
how about give them an exclusive interview and say, all right, let us know where we're falling short as a company. I'd love to hear it. See what happens.
And that's the thing about the guy that was the CEO at the time. Massive egomaniac,
Yeah.
raging,
Oh.
raging,
And look what happened
according.
to him. He was on the hook for millions of dollars personally, which I think was
I
great. Yeah.
I do too, but the fact that he got that huge payout, it's
Yeah,
like,
the golden parachute. I know. I know. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna fucking do?
I-
But for them to let him off the leash like that, for corporate to know about it, um, it just seemed so much like overkill, right? Just so way too like they brought a nuclear bomb to a fist fight, over you don't like what a reporter's saying? Come on. So what, you think no one's going to use eBay because of them? No, it's not going to cut into their market share. It's not going to do anything. They just didn't
well,
like it.
but like the plan, like, how do you think that this isn't going to get tracked back to you?
I That's stupid. You can never underestimate the stupidity of criminals. First of all, I think we've
Right.
learned that over and over again. Yeah.
But I mean, this guy was, and there was this video of him coming into the office and he just thought he was hot shit. Like, I can't
They
even tell
rented a
you.
they rented cars on corporate credit cards.
No, I know,
Like
but just the whole like
they're stupid.
fantasy of this guy thinking he is I mean, the thing that kept coming when I saw him walking in wearing these like, and I know you shouldn't judge a book by the cover, but him wearing these jeans, they were kind of tight and like he just thought he was the cock of the walk or whatever
Oh
that's
gosh.
saying. I
Yeah.
know, right? And
Yeah.
just like really living his fantasy of having this entourage of like young women and them vying for his attention.
Yep.
And
Yep.
like,
And then really like high level criminal level gaslighting, where then they call them and say, "We're here to help you," when they're
oh,
the ones doing it. That's mind fucking right there. That's
that
crazy. That is
and for them to
crazy.
think that they're not, oh, what I loved too, I loved it that this couple had all these cameras. So like they and they were in this documentary of like
Yeah.
you could see the cars going by and you could see, and then the husband who seems so mild mannered, you heard him being like super protective of his wife, like
Yeah.
the car was going by and it stopped, and how terrifying it truly was, where you have
Yeah.
this somebody getting out of their car with a box and
Yep.
he opens up the window, it's like 4 a.m. and he's like and he's like, stay there, motherfucker. And he instantly became like, according,
Became like an
this,
attack dog. Yeah.
he was, but it was like,
Yeah.
it's just, they thought they could do anything to these people.
I know, but and what did our victims here do? They did everything right. They called the cops like every time. That's
Yeah.
it. Called
Yeah.
the cops every time. So the cops had a record of all of this. So it was when the dam started to break, they had all of the cards. They had everything. It was fucking so weird. And like I don't even know what they were writing, but were they writing like scandalous shit about eBay? Was it really like an expose?
No, I mean, I was okay. What this is what I think it was. I didn't read any of her
Yeah.
writings, but I read her headlines, a few of them because they were in the documentary. But
Yeah.
what it said, what the deal was, is that because they had spent 20 years covering this topic, they were subject matter experts. She knew her shit. She knew
Yeah.
everything about this, So like
Yeah.
anytime, and then the forum, I think they had amassed like 600,000 subscribers or something. So it was a large platform.
Yeah.
And so people could go and complain about eBay and really stir the pot. And it was at the same time where this Elliott group, who goes and tries to buy, companies that they feel they can make money out of, or that are struggling, or that are not. So it was this kind of perfect storm for the CEO, who, it sounds like, instead of putting energy into fixing the problems with the company,
Yeah.
he chose to focus on this ma and pa
On
operation.
silencing the people who were exposing the flaws in the company
Yeah,
rather than
exactly.
fixing the flaws. Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
so a lot of people aren't going to know, like, okay, tech reporters who cover so many different,
Yeah.
organizations. You had someone who was so specifically involved, entrenched in eBay, and had been for 20 years. Like, she knew her shit.
Wow. Well, but they got him. And other than the fines, did people go to jail?
Yeah. So the main guy got 5 years,
Okay.
and then his second got 2 years, and then the rest of them kind of got
Community service and fines and
house
shit.
arrest.
House arrest. Okay.
Um,
And the
yeah,
CEO just financial penalty?
yeah,
Okay.
which
Wow.
I think is like, you know, I just don't
I
get
mean,
why these people are always protected like this.
the corporate veil, you know? Yep. Pretty
I
crazy.
know, but do you
But
think it's because
yeah,
but why? Like, look at all the Enron guys.
be, sure, because I think ultimately people can say no to fucked up orders, right? You could become there's whistleblower protections. Like if CEO says, "Hey, I want you to silence these people." I'm sure he's smart enough to kind of cover his tracks to the point where to avoid criminality, right? And so none of the shit really lands on him beyond a fine. That there are protections in place, corporate protections, because you don't ascend to the CEO of that size of a company by being like actually stupid, right? You make bad decisions based on ego and all that, but when it comes to covering your ass, he probably knew what he was doing. And any of these people that were actually committing the crimes could have said no to it because they knew what they were doing was criminal. They knew it, so I'm sure that's why all of the culpability was on the actual bad actors, and he gets fired and gets $57 million and has to pay a few million. That's unfortunately the kind of dirty ways of our world.
I
Yeah,
think that's really shocking.
it is. It is. But fuck, I don't know. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So let's talk for a second because I got to go soon about Idaho.
Yeah, so basically that was a shocker. A year after
Shocker.
Brian Koberger admitted in a judge, you are saying you killed these four people, and he said,
Yes.
yes, I did. I murdered them. He did this to escape the death penalty, and now he's coming out with, a document asking for relief to overturn that guilty plea and get a new trial.
So, in your experience, why does someone do that?
Well, I think that who knows? We still don't even know what his motive was. People are still, he didn't, in
Right. He
accepting his
wouldn't give a
guilty,
motive. Right.
he wouldn't give a motive, which I think
Yeah.
is BS because people want, the family
Yeah.
wants to know, like, why. I can imagine that would be like, you want to know, like, why
Yep.
these four, why this house, why. Um, I think that, from what I've read and heard people talking about is that he recognized, like, maybe he thought things were going to be different in prison, that he thought that he was going to get a job. He thought that he was going to, he's under constant security. He is, he's probably
Oh.
like Gary Ridgway. He's under, 23
So
out of
it's
24 hours, he's in a cell.
so it's worth it to him to roll the dice to
And,
maybe.
maybe he wants attention, I mean, he
But is he
clearly,
rescinding it? So the death penalty will be back on the table then.
yes. Yeah. So I think that, he had, like, this is really hard to, the chances of this happening are rare,
Yeah.
but basically the judge will decide. And basically he's saying it's because I had ineffective counsel, and that I not only did I have ineffective counsel, but I didn't do it. He's saying he didn't do it.
So
And
he's claiming his innocence right
he's
now.
claiming his innocence, and he's saying that his attorneys didn't present, apparently there was some kind of clump or hairs or something in the hand of Ethan Chapin, one of the victims,
Yeah.
that was not presented. And so that is, and the hair or whatever it was belonged to someone else. It didn't
The real
match.
killer. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's kind of like,
So it's up
that
to one
opens the
judge. It's
door.
up to the judge.
It's up to this judge, the same judge who was presided over the guilty
The
verdict, but
plea.
then
Okay.
also he could take this up to the Supreme Court. So this is not going to go away anytime soon. And he
What
has
he
other
wants.
options. He wrote the petition himself that he filed, but he also, can go to the Supreme Court after that if he gets denied. And I
State
think,
state Supreme Court first before and then the
yeah,
appellate
yeah,
court
yeah,
and then the
yeah,
US. Gotcha. Okay.
yeah. So here's the thing, how does he explain away his blood, that was a
On
drop
the
of his blood
sheath.
that was found on
Yeah.
the sheath?
Yeah.
Like,
He's gonna have to face all of the evidence against him.
Yeah.
All of it.
But
Yeah.
like, can you, so he thought
His
that he
car
was,
in the area, his phone in the area, like all of that. He's gonna have to answer to all of that.
but you know
So
what's strange is like, look at the Murdaugh case.
yeah,
Who thought that would get
yeah,
overturned, right?
yeah,
Like, who thought that? I don't think anybody thought that.
yeah.
And they're going to be
Who,
looking for
who thought
anything.
who thought OJ would be acquitted, right?
I mean, strange. And I think part of like one of the families, Kaylee's family, they've come out with a statement basically saying like they wanted to have a trial. They wanted him to get the death
Yeah.
penalty. So for them, it's like they're, I don't know the other families how they feel about it, but like I can,
There's a dad that's in the news all the time.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how that guy keeps his shit together. Oh man, good for him. I can't even imagine.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
for any of them, I
I
can't
know.
even imagine.
No,
But
but for him to be that forward-facing media-wise, that he's able to, that's got to be part of his like healing process, I would imagine, because he's taking a lot of opportunities to voice his opinions on stuff. So he's got to. I just hope it helps. Hope it helps him. Yeah.
and I think I think everybody is so different. So like for him, to your point, that could
Yeah.
help. Whereas
Yep.
other fathers, maybe they're like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And it one is not better than the other or worse than
No,
the
it's
other or
personal.
whatever.
Exactly. It's
But
whatever
like
works
what's
for you.
really sad is the two other roommates who were there, who they still, and they probably will have to deal with this for the rest of their lives because they didn't immediately call,
Right.
because they were, again, it's this trauma that like you never know what you're going to do when you're in a situation like that. And they were in such I mean,
You don't know how you'll react.
you don't know how you'll react. So
Yep.
anyway,
Wow. All right. Well, let's keep tabs on this.
Definitely.
It'll be if it goes to trial, it's just gonna be a content machine, So let's see what happens. But excellent work on the eBay story. Really interesting and really stupid at the end of the day that those idiots fucking did that. But I'm glad the bad guys were identified and caught and punished. Good for them. And I wonder, are they still? Do they still have their blog? Are they still reporting on the
they
on the
probably are
breaking eBay news?
they're probably the type of people that would absolutely do
I'm
that.
gonna go check it out.
EcommerceBytes, BYTES.
BYTES, EcommerceBytes, yo. Okay. I will check it out. All right, well, Nation, if you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend, rate and review the show. Every little interaction with the algorithm helps more people discover us. So
Every little thing she does is magic. Yeah.
okay. Oh
Okay.
gosh.
Everything
All right.
she does, everything she do.
I'm gonna cut this mercifully short for all of you listening. Stay safe until next week. Bye, Carolyn.
Bye.